nice. I'm going to be real nice. You might be wondering why I'm up here, what my connection is with Ed and Donana. My wife Kay and I had the privilege of working with Pastor Ed and Donana for a couple of years in Casa Grande as associate pastors. And I think we represent the associate pastors because they liked us better than any of the other associates they ever had. Dale, I just want to let you know that. Ed did tell me that, so. There's many things I could say in regard to Ed and Donana. They're all complimentary, of course. I would never say anything negative at all, because I really don't have anything negative. But I might tell some fun things. How's that, if I tell a couple of fun things? First of all, though I was a little concerned when I saw the program, because I just glanced at it at first, and if you just take it like the first glance at the front, it says in recognition, but I thought it said in remembrance at first. And then I looked on the inside and it said, I fought the good fight. I finished the course. And I wasn't sure if there was something that had happened that I wasn't aware of. But I'm glad to see that you guys are both up here. That's great news. And so I'm really happy about that. But just a couple of things that I would share with you about the Bradfords. First of all, my relationship with them probably goes further back than they even realized. Darren and I were pretty good friends in camp days years ago as teenagers. The good news about that is neither one of us are in prison today. So that's the good news. And but we had a good time together. But when I went to work for Pastor Ed at Casa Grande First Assembly, I remember a couple of things. One of the things is I didn't recognize how competitive Pastor Ed was until I went to work there. I mean, this man is competitive, in case you didn't know that. I remember part of my job description when he wrote it out. One segment of it was that I would be responsible to play tennis with the pastor as frequently as possible and let him win most of those games. That was part of my job description written down. I should have saved that. I could have given that back to him today. But as I look back, Pastor Ed, and I say Pastor Ed, I call him Ed and Donana, but I mean, they are probably as much pastors to me as anyone I've ever had in my life. And as I look back, my only regret is not playing tennis more with you when we were there. We had a lot of fun doing that. We would go in the parking lot and shoot baskets and just all kinds of things. There was always something going on. I remember going to the cabin in Prescott with him, and he had his motorcycles, his dirt bikes, parked inside the cabin when we got there. And I never knew how Donana let you get away with that. I really didn't. But we'd pull those dirt bikes out, and the first time we did that as a staff, we went up there for a retreat, and I thought Pastor Ed was just kind of favoring me because he gave me the bigger motorcycle. And so I was pretty excited about that at first, and then I realized that there were 3 of us and only 2 motorcycles. And so at the time, I won't mention his name, but we had a youth pastor at the time there. You know who I'm talking about. He wasn't a real big guy. He was kind of a smaller guy. But I remember Pastor Ed jumped on that smaller motorcycle, and he took off. And he said, hey, you guys get that other bike. And I was on there. And our youth pastor had never ridden a motorcycle before. So for a while, he wanted to drive, and he wanted me to ride. And that took about, maybe 20 yards down the road. And I said, that's enough of that. Get off of this thing. Because Pastor Ed was about 2 miles ahead of us already on his motorcycle. So I made him get on the back, and he screamed like a little 9-year-old girl all the way back, trying to catch Pastor Ed. But I was really impressed. That's the first time I'd ever ridden motorcycles with Pastor Ed. The man can ride motorcycle. I'm going to tell you what. Don't mess around because he'll beat you. He really will. So that was a lot of fun. We had fun doing things like that. I remember playing frisbee golf at the cabin several times and enjoyed doing that. I remember in Casa Grande, as I worked there at the office, I remember days like shooting commercials for the Caring Place, Casa Grande First Assembly. Pastor Ed was always innovative. He was always doing the next best thing, the next good thing. And I remember going around all over the city of Casa Grande, holding up a white, some sort of background. And I mean, I was exhausted at the end of the day. I just held that background up everywhere. And Steve David filmed, anybody know Steve David? Some of you know Steve, yeah. He filmed commercials, but I'll tell you what, those came on the local cable channel, and everybody in town knew where Casa Grande First Assembly was at, the Caring Place. They were all about that. So you were always innovative and all that, and I learned a lot from that. I remember going to work there at the first part of our time with them, and at the time I had a 1975 gray, ugly Chevy pickup. And I got the feeling after I was there about a month that really Pastor Ed didn't really want me to drive the truck to the church. He would never say it, though. He just kind of, is that your truck? Yeah, that's my truck, and well, you kind of maybe park on the edge because we don't want, we want the pastors to walk further than but I think really what he meant was leave your truck at home and walk to work. But he didn't want to say that because he knew I'd hit him up for a raise if he asked me to get a different truck. And so he never really came out with it, but I think he didn't really care for my truck. But that's okay. The heart that people have expressed that Ed and Donna have for Native ministries and that you have seen displayed in the district office is the same heart that he had as a pastor there at Casa Grande First Assembly. I remember many times going to different communities around there, dropping off a cooler, dropping off a refrigerator, connecting washers and dryers for someone, just always something going on. And Pastor Ed and Donanna were always willing to meet the needs of people around the community as best they could. And I appreciated that about them. Their heart for ministry was just fabulous. And there was really, I can't think of a better place to work. I've said to Pastor Ed several times, I wish I would have been a senior pastor first. I would have been a much better associate when I went to work for you, because I realized how much more I could have done as an associate. But I appreciate them both. Donanna, I don't want to leave you out. You just did a great job in running the daycare, the preschool. You won't find anybody that can do the job in a greater quality fashion than Donanna can do. She always had a way with those little kids. They would always, you know how it is with a 5 or 4-year-old, catastrophe hits and their life is falling apart. Everything's melting down, and she was able to just grab a hold of them and help them get control and move them to their class. And she just did a great job of leading that preschool for so many years. And one of the things that Kay and I certainly learned from Ed and Donanna is just the quality of ministry that they always displayed. I was always impressed by that. They were always the best at hosting people and caring for people. And we learned a lot from you, and hopefully we are applying some of those things to our lives as ministers today. So I'm grateful to be able to just say thank you. And we're excited for you. I know this is retirement, but I'm sure that it's probably just beginning the next phase of ministry that God has for you. So thank you.